Welcome to the Nutritional and Wellness Tip for Menopausal Women show. I'm Michelle, a life designer coach, nutritional therapist, leader in Run Fitness, mum of two, entrepreneur, and the host of this show, bringing wisdom and experiences from inspirational people, fellow entrepreneurs, and from within my own life journey, supporting you around the globe to elevate your health and well-being to achieve the life you want to achieve. This week, I am super excited to speak with Steph, a hypnosis. Steph is a solution focused hypnosis therapist, and being led by science, Steph uses hypnotherapy to focus on what you want to achieve. Steph will take us through her journey into hypnosis and how it can support in menopause and achieving the goals you wish to achieve. So, big round of applause. Welcome, Steph, to our show. Yay!
Hi.
Welcome aboard. So, for our listeners, and particularly for those that are new listening to the show, tell us a bit about yourself, your journey into hypnosis.
Okay. We could be here a long time then. It's nice to see you, Michelle. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. Just very quickly, the difference between a hypnotherapist and a clinical hypnotherapist is that a clinical hypnotherapist has completed training with a significant medical element to it. I'm not a doctor, I'm not medically trained, but as a clinical hypnotherapist rather than a hypnotherapist, I can work with medical related things. So rather than just working with anxiety and phobias, stop smoking, the classical hypnotherapy stuff, I can delve into much deeper stuff. So menopausal hypnosis or hypnotherapy for the menopause, gut directed hypnosis, fertility hypnosis, hypnosis for pain, all sorts of things. It just opens it up completely. And I discovered hypnosis myself when I was trying to get pregnant. We'd had quite a long fertility journey and it just felt utterly hopeless. And I was at a point where, having used alternative medicine and gone down the mainstream sort of investigative route with fertility, there wasn't actually anything wrong. And yet we weren't getting pregnant. And so I thought, well, if my body is ready for pregnancy, and I'd worked really hard with a Chinese herbal doctor to get everything beautifully in place. If at that point I wasn't getting pregnant, I thought, well, it must be my mind. So I looked for a hypnotherapist and found one quite local to me. It was clear from the way she responded when I said, could you help me get pregnant? She'd never worked with fertility before. But after the second session, I fell pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't realize until after the third session that I was pregnant. But she recommended I use hypnobirthing because I thought hypnosis was so fabulous, and had a fabulous pregnancy, fabulous birth. And I've just been enthralled with hypnosis ever since.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, I suppose, tell us a bit more what it is, hypnosis, because obviously for majority of people, and this is very stereotypical, I will put it out there, where you look at, I'm going to put you in a trance and then you're going to say a few words and we're going to stop everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
That's kind of like
Yeah.
the image,
It
don't we?
is.
The social media type
Yeah.
thing that you get.
The
It's,
creepy geek in the polar neck jumper look into
yeah.
my eyes.
That's not really, because I've had hypnosis, and my hypnosis has been more trauma related,
Yeah.
to which has been with yourself. I suppose, yeah. What is more the hypnosis? And I suppose the studies or the research that you're particularly doing around what is it, and going, well, how the hell can it help with menopause? I mean, menopause is
Yeah,
just you've got lack of
yeah,
estrogen and
but
other hormones. So what's the crack here?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the well, people tend to think of hypnosis as stage hypnosis, or they think that working with a hypnotherapist will be like stage hypnosis. They are two different things.
Mm.
Hypnotherapy is talking therapy combined with hypnosis. So when you come to see a hypnotherapist, you come with some sort of idea of what you want. You may have a list. Your ideas of what you want may evolve session to session, but we use the hypnosis like a jetpack. It speeds the therapy up because during the hypnosis part of this session, the whole of your mind is engaging in finding the solutions for the problems. Hypnosis is a completely normal, natural state that we all go into many, many times a day. The most notable are probably just in those moments when you're waking up in the morning and as you get into bed at night before you fall asleep, that sort of drift time. In a hypnotherapy session, we take you into hypnosis in a defined way, so we know where you're going, we know what we're doing. And I think one of the most important things to know about it is that you are always in control. So if someone came to work with me and they didn't want to be here, apart from the fact that I'd pick that up long before we move on to the hypnosis, if we did get to the hypnosis point, if they didn't want to be hypnotized, it wouldn't happen. You go into hypnosis, into a deeply relaxed, focused state if you want to. But we know from research that when you're in a state of hypnosis, the whole of the frontal lobes of the mind just light up. And in those regions, it's where we think more positively, it's where we find solutions, where we can make connections, create ideas. It's even where the eureka moment within the brain exists and can happen. And so the hypnosis gives you a really good chance to digest and think about on a subconscious level what it is you want. So that's why I call it the jetpack, because it gives you an additional layer of therapy, if you like.
Mm. It's beautiful. I mean, I've done a bit of research. What
Mm.
sort of research is there behind supporting hypnosis with managing symptoms associated with menopause, and sort of like, mainly, just to recap, some of the major symptoms that women experience is like the hot flushes, the mood swings, the sleep disturbances, just feeling like
Yeah.
you're losing out of control.
And I've got a list of the symptoms in front of me, and you see how it's enormous.
It's enormous, yeah.
Enormous.
And
And
there's
everyone is
thousands of
different.
us. There's millions of us that are
Yeah.
experiencing, and it doesn't all come at once. So there is no
No.
routine of these symptoms. One day you can be completely fine, and I know I had a hot
Mm.
flush and I felt like I was going to pass out, and I was like trying to cook dinner.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, 3/4 of people going through the menopause at some point experience hot flashes. About 3/4 experience sleep disturbance to some degree. But you're absolutely right, it can range from headaches, muscle pain, tiredness, brain fog, overwhelm, anxiety, panic attacks, even new phobias, um, low mood, all sorts of things. Um, Sorry, I've forgotten what the question was right at the
So
beginning.
I said, I was saying there is only a little bit of research
Research,
studies
yeah.
that can help manage the symptoms. So I say, what's your experience of this?
Mm.
What could we know what the symptoms are. We know there's limited research
Yeah,
on how to manage menopause, and that's through obviously I've written and we've spoken on the podcast about supplements, about nutritional gut biome.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
suppose particularly about hypnosis and how that can help.
Mm.
Can we just delve a bit
Yeah,
further
sure.
into that and
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
experience? And, just in case people are finding, well, these other holistic practices, and I'm very much a holistic person, goes, well, actually, you've got to look at your whole self. So, looking at the
Mm.
food, looking at what your bedtime routine is, looking at are you taking time out for yourself and other techniques. But hypnosis is another arm of that from
Yes.
my perspective and
Yeah.
from my experience, where you go, actually, some of these more panic attacks, I kind of the loss of feeling about your purpose, the anxiety, all the clinical stuff that you
Mm.
mentioned earlier. How how have you found that with sort of menopausal women, and how it can support hypnosis?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, in terms of the research, when you look at any of the complementary therapies, and complementary therapies are therapies that can be added into mainstream medicine, what we're not, I think it's important to know that we always promote the use of your mainstream medical
Mm,
providers and just bring us in as an addition.
yeah.
Um, but complementary therapies tend not to have a busting lot of research done. And the
Mm,
reason for that is that research takes a huge amount of money.
yeah.
And the money for research tends to come from pharmaceutical companies.
Hmm.
And there is no sense in investing time and money in complementary things that bring no financial
Financial
gain.
gain.
So any research that is done into complementary therapies, we're very lucky to have had. And what you'll find when you read through them is most of them are calling out for more research.
Yes, and that's something I've shared time and time, because a lot of my other podcasts around this and well-being and nutritional is being it's inconclusive. Okay, we're
Mm,
asking for more people, and I suppose this is where my passion is, and hence starting the podcast is getting this word out and going,
yeah.
okay, you've got this available, let's try it, feedback to the
Mm.
world.
I mean, looking at some of the studies, there was a study in 2017 that was looking at the number of hot flushes and the severity of hot flushes. What they found was that the number of hot flushes with the use of hypnosis reduced by 74.16%,
Oh wow.
and the severity of hot flushes by 80.32%, which is a
Mm,
lot. In 2017, they did a follow up study and found that they had some people just using hypnosis, some just using drugs, some using, I need to get this right, don't I? But anyway, they had sham hypnosis, placebo drugs, and they combined them all. So what they found was that by the end, the people who just had hypnosis showed a 50% reduction in symptoms. The people
okay.
who just had drugs showed a 50% reduction in symptoms. The people who had the placebo across the board, so sham hypnosis, the placebo pill reduced by 25%. So we know that even when you think you're being
You're being
treated and you're
treated.
not, your symptoms improve, which should tell us something about the psychological effect on the menopause and our
Mhm.
symptoms. When we think we're being treated and we're actually not, we get better. Um, but it showed that whether you use hypnosis or the particular drug they were looking at in the study, the effect of that is double that of the placebo.
Wow. And that's quite
Um,
significant. So
yeah.
I'm kind of like going, well, okay, so it's from your experience. Do we think that hypnosis, you can share some techniques that may be applicable to all of us, or is it more individually tailored? And I suppose it does beg the question of whether or not some of the symptoms that we are experiencing, does it relate also to perhaps more traumatic or self-limiting beliefs, which is obviously something as a coach I work with a lot. I've experienced myself, and the fear and the anxiety gets heightened because you've got the hormonal changes. But I know that sometimes my fear and anxiety is also related to experiences from my past. So
Yeah.
do we think that the two, with the hormonal changes and the increase, could be related to trauma as well?
What I find is that, I mean, we know that by the time you get to middle age, most people have experienced at least one trauma in their
Yeah.
lifetime.
Mm.
For most people, I mean, I'm just thinking of myself. I think I've experienced a lot of quite random traumas. Part of being a mother. But most of them settle down. As horrifying as some things we go through can be, they settle down, but sometimes they don't for some of us, and we don't really know why that happens. Um, and it's when things don't settle that the problems occur. So
Mm.
if you experience something stressful or particularly challenging, emotionally difficult, after about a month, you should find that it settles. Grief, obviously, takes longer than that, but things will settle. But when that doesn't happen, it's like having a little fire in your mind. It's as though your mind's saying, remember that, remember that, remember that, remember that, poking you almost. And it can exacerbate all sorts of problems. Increased anxiety, hypervigilance, avoidance, all sorts of things. But what I find with clients is if there's something like that going on, they do tell me pretty quickly,
Quickly.
usually in the first session. So we work on that fairly quickly because just lifting that alone can lift everything else. But when that's not involved, we look at everything else. I mean, we look at everything else anyway, but some of the techniques we use, there are quite a few techniques we use with the menopause. And I think every single hypnosis technique there is has multiple uses.
Mm.
So one of the classics with the menopause is glove anesthesia, which is the art of making your body cold with your mind.
Ooh,
Ooh, yeah, right.
tell me more.
Well, as you can probably imagine, this has multiple uses. So it's very well known in childbirth. I got all the way, I went all the way through labor, fully dilated, without feeling anything other than muscle movement, not a bit of pain using glove anesthesia. It was astonishing. But by learning glove anesthesia, you can bring coldness to your body whenever you want to. It does take practice. And it's literally learning to imagine your hand becoming very, very cold and numb. So for menopause, the coldness is useful. For people with chronic pain, the numbness is useful because we know that once you numb the hands, you can then transfer it to wherever you want in the body. If you want, they have looked at whether you can numb your core, but it's much, much easier to numb your hands than any other part of your body and then bring that numbness, that coldness to your core, if that's where you want it. Does that make
So,
sense?
yeah. So as part of your hypnosis practice, you would sort of like talk through that. You would get the
We
person
would,
into that
yeah, we
state.
would learn. I
And
would
then
think,
and techniques
yeah,
then from that are specific to the individual of how they get themselves into a hypnotic state to
yeah,
be able to
yeah,
replicate that.
yeah.
That
So
is brilliant.
self-hypnosis is an important part of quite a lot of
Mm,
the more medicalized sort of reasons people come to see me. Because
yeah.
once you can learn to hypnotize yourself, you can practice these techniques, really build up a strong association with them. So
Mm,
that rather than thinking about it and having to work it out when you need it, it's there. So we literally build up what's called a touch anchor. So that as you're touching your hand, you're bringing coolness and numbness to it, and then you can transfer that any way you want. So self-hypnosis takes around 4 weeks to
okay.
learn, and it's developed session to session. So you might be learning glove anesthesia. You might be using it for pain.
Some of them I think might be just to sort of like, I know from my experience it was more about using the hypnosis to then recognize feelings and having a visual, and I'm 100% after achieving a good for age marathon, Amsterdam Marathon, where all I did was visualizing that end line, and my
Yeah.
mantra was keep going, this is what you're going to get, this is what you're going to get. And that really worked. And I know some hypnosis that you've done with me is more, how do you recognize that anxiety and sort of kind of deal with it in your mind and release it without any, writing or sort of like stopping breathing techniques, which are other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is in a mental rehearsal. So it really does depend on the individual, but the techniques that we use, often I use most often with the menopause of the glove anesthesia or some other form of in a more indirect type of hypnosis to bring the coolness in. Progressive muscle relaxation, which
Mm,
can help reduce anxiety, help reduce fear, help with hot flashes. A technique called the marble hypnosis, which is a touch anchor, so that when we know what it is you want, because not everybody experiences hot
mm,
flashes, um, and there are so many other symptoms that can come up with the menopause. So when we think about what it is you actually want, we can visualize that and anchor that into the marble so that when you hold the marble, perhaps in your pocket or just having it on your desk or whatever, when you hold that marble, you can visualize yourself as that version of you, that preferred version of you, that best version of you, and can literally connect with it in the moment. Something else we use is the dial technique.
mhm.
So this can be emotional or physical things, just literally visualizing a dial between your fingers and turning it up to the number that feels safe and comfortable for you. Um, so I've used this with with golfers actually, who are worried about their next shot, which I know might sound a bit glib when we're talking about menopause, but I work with quite a damaging condition in golf, called the yips. But we can use the dial technique with all sorts of things. So coolness, bringing up relaxation, bringing up confidence, even mental clarity. Memory trance is really nice. And that's where you go to a time and a place where you feel truly comfortable, really good. And I've had lovely results with this, with the menopause and with fertility, of through self hypnosis, taking clients to that place, bringing back all the feelings so that you can connect with that version of you in the moment just by thinking about that place. Um,
So that, I mean, that really is just beautiful because they're techniques that we can start. I'm hearing that you start off obviously with a professional yourself, but they can carry on.
yeah,
And I think that's quite important because then I'm going, well, that must mean there must be long-term benefits, just, from, oh, I'm arriving here with this symptom that's
Mm,
deliberating for many of us, and that actually this is a longer term that you
yeah.
can carry on and have that more holistic well-being and well-being,
Yeah,
your empowerment to actually take that further.
absolutely. I mean, sometimes I will say to people in their very first session before I've ever spoken to them before, what have you been pleased to notice since you booked this session? And it's astonishing actually how many people go, oh, do you know what? I do feel a bit better. And we
Mm,
haven't even met each other before that moment, but just knowing that you're doing something about it, whether
mm,
it's hypnotherapy or any other method, just knowing that you're being proactive, you're doing something does make a
different.
difference. And so I work with my clients over a series of weeks. I think the self hypnosis is something you either really take to, it's a bit like Marmite.
Yeah.
It's something if you're interested in doing it, really do give it your best. But I do occasionally work with people like, no, I can't do this. So we do recordings, we do it a bit differently. But for those who can and really do take to self hypnosis, it's it's like going to the chiropractor and they give you exercises. No one wants to go to chiropractor to get exercises. You want your chiropractor to do all the work, right?
Quick fix.
But long term, if you want your sessions to be further apart, if you want to be able to just help yourself out, it's a tool. And I've got people who say, yeah, I step out of the office, I go to the quiet room and I hypnotize myself for 5 minutes. And when I walk back in, I feel like a new person,
Mm,
you know? And I think people these days do tend to want something that they can take and run with.
mm.
Um, and if that's not what they want, then I'm here. So it's whatever you want.
So what I just before we kind of wrap up, what I'm kind of hearing is that your experience of hypnosis with menopausal symptoms has been successful. We still
Yeah.
need to do more scientific research, but this is the
Mm,
whole area. It can help with lots of other stuff. And equally, I think the important thing is, and very much because I'm a practitioner, is that
mm,
actually we're looking at giving people the tool sets, the tools that they can use longer term.
yeah.
We're here, we can start you off, we can help with that immediate side, but it is the longer term and everything that we do, y- you know, our life journey isn't, it will change and our bodies
Mm,
change and our mindset changes. And this is just one therapy,
yeah.
medicine that we can do that can help support this
Mm,
evolutionary journey,
yeah.
which menopause is. It's just an evolutionary journey. It's not a significant end to a period. It is just going on to a next phase. Um, and I suppose before we wrap up, is there anything else that's really sort of like calling out to you in your heart, in your stomach that you want to share with our listeners?
Um, I think just the sort of nuts and bolts of it with the menopause. It's a recommended 5 sessions minimum. And what some people do is take the self hypnosis and run with it.
Mhm,
Um, and other people will reap the benefits and then come back in 6 months, 12 months when they need a top up or when their symptoms have changed and they need to tweak things. Um, but there are wonderful people like you around who can help as well. So I love it when I get clients who say, well, I'm working with a coach, I'm working with a nutritionist, I've got a Chinese herbal doctor, you know, I'm doing angel Reiki, whatever it might be. It's all about being good to you.
mm.
And these things blend so beautifully.
I think that's the thing, is that if you don't know where to start, but this podcast is calling out to you, then obviously I'm
Mm.
going to put in the show notes your details and key points, and go, actually, yeah, if it is calling out to you, try it. Because there is no hard and fast, particularly in the area of complementary medicine, that we can go, that's your quick fix,
Mm.
because that's not what complementary medicine is about. It's about the whole you, and hypnosis can help with that mind, body, soul connection, and really homing in on that. It can help with, the menopausal symptoms. And then, as we know, one of my sort of like heart flares and passions is to make sure your gut is nutritionally, to
Mm.
help them with the hypnosis, because you have that mind, body, and
Mm.
soul. And there is no quick fix for anybody, for whatever they're experiencing. And I am honored and grateful to have the time with you, just to share something which I don't think is very much shouted about, and about how hypnosis really
Mm.
can help you, not just in stages of menopause, but in other areas.
Yeah.
But this can be quite a deliberating time for many, many women. And actually, just to be able to share this story and your journey and your experience, to say, don't give up hope. If one
Mm.
thing hasn't worked with you, let's try this.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
and
And
that's getting the message out.
you never know from the first meeting with the client exactly what's going to work. And I think it's interestingly, sometimes there are quick fixes. And it surprises even me. Um, but it's not something that can be guaranteed, And I think one of the mistakes people think is that, oh, well, hypnosis will be a quick fix. Well, it might be,
They might not be.
but might need a little bit more work than that.
Thank you. So, my friends, I hope you have found this show useful in understanding, or at least opening the mind to how hypnosis can support you in your menopause journey. And I suppose, more holistically, looking at your lifetime goals, how you want to feel and achieve them. As I've said, in the show notes, I'll include Steph's details so that you can reach out to her, and obviously try hypnosis. My details, as always, will be included, and we will work in partnership with you to actually help to elevate your health and well-being. And just before we go, I'd like to remind everybody that, first of all, if you want to comment and review, hop over to my YouTube channel, and you get to comment there. Obviously, you can comment directly with me. And don't forget, I am requesting 3 individuals, brave individuals, that want to come onto my show on a live open mic where we can do a bit of coaching. So, my friends, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will look forward to speaking to you soon.